evolution of strawberry shortcake. There are two types of people in the world. One hears the word strawberry shortcake and thinks only of the dessert, while the other is reminded of an adorable fruit-scented toy and this catchy jingle. Strawberry. Originally created in the 1970s, strawberry shortcake has had quite the evolution over the past 5 decades, going from one of the most popular toys in America to a character that very few people would recognize today. In today's video, we'll be talking about Strawberry Shortcake's humble beginnings as a greeting card character, her brief stint as the face of a billion-dollar franchise, her multiple makeovers and numerous TV shows, and the current state of the once popular character. Let's get into it. The character that would eventually be known as Strawberry Shortcake was originally created in the 1970s by Barbie Sargent for American Greetings, one of the biggest greeting card companies in the world. Sargent had briefly worked for the company as a full-time staff member in the late 60s, before spending the next 15 years as a freelance artist under contract. And during her time at American Greetings, she estimated that she had produced over 4,000 greeting cards for the company. In 1972, she created a Valentine's Day card which she called Girl with a Daisy, and it featured a young girl wearing an orange bonnet with strawberries on it. This card was surprisingly popular with customers, and Rex Connors, American Greetings' then staff art director, tasked Sargent with the creation of 4 more strawberry-themed cards for their annual market test in 1977. The response to these test cards was immensely positive, and the company had so much faith in the concept that they bypassed their usual tryout period and went forward with a full-scale campaign. They first began with a line of greeting cards, assigning in-house artists to redesign Sargent's character to be more identifiable and replicable. And in 1979, the first batch of official Strawberry Shortcake greeting cards were released to the public. This revised version of Strawberry Shortcake had yarn-like hair and wore a red dress, a frilled apron, green tights, bloomers, and a pink strawberry printed bonnet, which overall lent to a more childlike and down-to-earth appearance. Now you're probably wondering why American Greetings decided to put all of their eggs in the Strawberry Shortcake basket, but there's actually a pretty simple reason. A few years prior, the company had found success with a different greeting card line, Holly Hobbie. The character, named after the artist who drew her, did extraordinarily well with customers, and in 1975 they launched a line of rag dolls designed after the sweet and rustic character, and by 1977 she'd become one of the top female licensed characters in the world. Seeing Strawberry Shortcake's potential for the same level of growth, they went all in on the concept, and American Greetings licensed the character to Kenner, who began producing Strawberry Shortcake dolls in February 1980, with the initial lineup of characters being expanded to include Blueberry Muffin, Huckleberry Pie, and Apple Dumpling. With their dessert-themed names and clothing to match, the doll line was able to implement a unique gimmick: fragrances, and each adorable character was given a signature scent which corresponded to their name and design, which helped the dolls stand out from the crowd. Which brings me to today's sponsor, Scentbird. Like Strawberry Shortcake, I also had a signature scent once upon a time, but it's been discontinued, and I've been trying to hunt down something similar ever since. It's been years at this point, and I've had no luck, which is where Scentbird comes in. Scentbird is a subscription service which lets you test out different designer fragrances for only $17 a month. Unlike those dinky little samples that you get at the store that only have 2 or 3 spritzes in them, Scentbird gives you a 30-day supply, meaning you can fully test out the fragrance before committing to a full bottle. Using Scentbird's Fragrance Finder quiz, I was recommended these 4 scents, which all came with these great cards that tell you all about them. This is from Nativa, and this is the St. Vincent and the Grenadine scent, which has a crisp mandarin and cool coconut water top note. Generally, it's inspired by like tropical scents, which is great for me because I live in the tropics. This is the Floral Blend by Sue Phillips, and it's more of a romantic scent that includes Lily of the Valley, Rose, Jasmine, and Gardenia. This scent is Sintra by Memo Paris, and it's supposed to be reminiscent of childhood with like a marshmallow note, so it includes bergamot, petit grain, orange flower, milk, and caramel. The last fragrance that I received is the Eau de Jour from Veronique Gabai. This is probably my favorite. It has a lot of citrus notes like lemon, bergamot, and mandarin. I found that this really puts like a spring in my step. Also, can we talk about this packaging? Not only is it super cute, but it's also really compact and sturdy, which means that it can fit in even your tiniest purse. so you can take it on the go. So if you're also on the hunt for your signature scent, or you just want to switch things up a bit, click the link below and use my code ModernGurlz for 55% off your first order at Scentbird. That means you're paying about $8 for your first month of fragrances.
They smell delicious!
Besides their scent making them a novelty, industry insiders also attributed the popularity of Strawberry Shortcake merchandise to their obvious acceptance of girliness, which at the time was a rarity, with Pamela Gray, then the children's fashion advisor of JCPenney, saying, quote, "Boys have Spider-Man, the Hulk, and this year especially, sports-oriented merchandise. Even Sesame Street doesn't have a strictly female character." Besides being incredibly popular with young girls, Strawberry Shortcake also had parental approval, which stemmed from the fact that they deemed her to be more age-appropriate than Barbie, who had a more grown-up appearance and a premise that hinged on dressing her up.
So now why am I in it? And you could have did it.
See, I get thrown in, because you never apologized.
One parent even said in an interview, quote, "I definitely think the reason the dolls are popular is the way they're marketed. The dolls are cute, as opposed to glamour dolls like Barbie, who tend to make little girls feel like they should be fashion plates." As time passed, more and more characters were introduced into the Strawberry Shortcake universe, including Lemon Meringue, Orange Blossom, and Lime Chiffon. These secondary characters were developed by American Greetings in-house staff, which included Muriel Farion, who would go on to create over 30 dessert-themed characters for the franchise. These characters appeared in various merchandise throughout the decade, including greeting cards, clothing, home decor, books, toys, and even food. Strawberry Shortcake was so popular at this point in time that Kenner produced 8 million dolls in 1981, 4 times as many as the year prior, and they still wound up selling out, much to the chagrin of parents and children across the country. Industry insiders were baffled by the success of the franchise, with Dave DeMalla, then Director of Public Relations for Kenner, saying, quote, "Even people who have been in the industry for 20 or 30 years don't remember seeing this kind of thing happen." As part of their marketing for the franchise, 6 TV specials were released, starting with The World of Strawberry Shortcake in March 1980, which was followed by a different special every year until 1985. These specials allowed for further expansion of the Strawberry Shortcake universe, introducing several new Strawberryland friends, as well as the villains Purple Pie Man and Sour Grapes. By bringing these beloved characters into an animated format, they were able to showcase their unique personalities, which further endeared them to the public, thereby ensuring that children would see the characters not just as toys, but as friends. Although Strawberry Shortcake was one of the most recognized faces in the country, very few people knew the story of how she was created. And in 1983, Barbie Sargent, the original artist, went to court against American Greetings for the copyright of the character. Sargent wound up winning the case, something which surprises me to this day, but she would eventually return the copyright to the company so they could continue with the franchise, with Sargent stating that her main reason for the suit was recognition for her work, not the money. Around the same time, Mary Ann Pittman would file a similar suit against American Greetings, alleging that she'd been the original creator of one of Strawberry Shortcake's friends, Angel Cake, but she wasn't successful. By 1985, Strawberry Shortcake's popularity had begun to wane, and Kenner wound up discontinuing production of the toy line that same year, whereupon they sold the license to Toy Headquarters. After several years of radio silence, Toy Headquarters eventually rebooted the franchise in 1991. They gave Strawberry Shortcake and her friends a new look, which was generically cute and color-coded, removing many of the dessert aspects that had defined the original characters. This update was poorly received by fans of the franchise, and after 1 year this generation was shelved after releasing only a single line of dolls. Strawberry Shortcake lay dormant for over a decade until 2002, when the characters received a 21st century makeover by American Greetings, with licensing rights for the toys being granted to Bandai. Instead of the original ragdoll look, the characters had a more casual and realistic appearance, sporting jeans, sneakers, and pullovers, which reflected children's fashion trends at the time, and like the generation before it, the dessert motifs weren't as obvious. As is often the case when things make a drastic change, there was some pushback towards the new look, but nostalgia won out in the end, with women of Generation X being able to reminisce about the character with their own children. In 2003, an accompanying TV show was released by DIC Entertainment, and the cast was made up of new and old characters alike. As an episodic TV series instead of a yearly special, they were able to experiment with the Strawberry Shortcake formula to an unprecedented degree, and the characters' personalities and relationships were further developed. Even their clothing was given more attention, with the characters wearing new outfits for specific episodes, which included ball gowns, swimsuits, and winter wear. This gave the franchise more of a fashion element than it had had in the past, a necessity when you consider the overwhelming popularity of fashion dolls in the 2000s, with other franchises like Polly Pocket making similar updates. While the specials from the 1980s had Strawberry and her friends set off on a grand adventure in order to defeat the villain, the TV series was grounded in reality, having scenarios that any child could relate to and learn from, like being sick, getting in a fight with their friends, or being afraid of the dark. This made it reminiscent to a lot of children's programming from the era, the closest in my opinion being Dragon Tales, which funnily enough was funded by American Greetings. In 2006, Playmates Toys picked up the rights to manufacture and sell Strawberry Shortcake figurines, and the characters were given yet another redesign. While they took after the 2003 characters in regard to their color palette and casual clothing, they were given a somewhat older appearance, now resembling teenagers more than children. This change was reflected in the TV series, with the 4th season showcasing the characters' new looks. In June 2008, Hasbro won the license from Playmates, resulting in yet another reboot of the franchise. This relaunch began in the summer of 2009, with the release of a CGI movie, The Sky's the Limit, which was followed by a new line of Strawberry Shortcake-themed toys a few months later. This was one of the most drastic changes to the lineup so far, with the characters receiving a fruit-forward makeover in order to distance them from the unhealthy desserts they were named after. They also owned businesses, which made them seem more mature than previous generations. This decision was a clear sign of the times, as many pieces of media had begun pushing an entrepreneurial message in the years following the recession. In 2010, Berry Bitty Adventures began airing, but was less positively received than the 2003 TV series, with criticisms being directed towards the animation style, repetitive designs, and lack of diversity. And looking back at it now, I'm inclined to agree. The 2018 web series, which had very little traction, is far more watchable, even if it's obviously cutting corners, and the character designs translate far better in 2D. Hasbro ceased production on Strawberry Shortcake dolls in 2013, eventually losing the license to the Bridge Direct in early 2014, which was then purchased by Iconics in 2015 before being acquired by WildBrain in 2018. Despite the franchise changing hands multiple times, the character designs introduced in 2009 remained, so Berry Bitty Adventures had a consistent look for its entire 5-year run. In 2017, promotional material for a 3D computer-animated series was released online, quickly drawing criticism from fans because of its new look. In my opinion, they seemed to be going for what was popular in the animation industry at the time, with the art style resembling Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Trolls, and the Smurfs, which felt like an odd direction to go for this character. It's unclear how much of the series was completed at this point in time, but following the backlash, nothing else has been seen from the project, and it's now considered a form of lost media. Following this backlash, the project was retooled, and in 2021, WildBrain released the web series Strawberry Shortcake, Berry in the Big City on YouTube. There are remnants of the 2017 project when it comes to the character design, like Strawberry Shortcake's beanie and Blueberry Muffin's giant bun, but with Berry in the Big City being 2D, it's far more appealing. They also got rid of the fantasy adventure elements in favor of a more realistic storyline and setting. Like many reboots of the franchise, the characters' outfits are updated to appeal to contemporary audiences, and while I don't necessarily love all of the fashion choices, I do like that this is one of the first times where the characters are given unique styles in order to reflect their individual personalities. Following the release of the series, WildBrain announced that they would be working with Moose Toys to release a corresponding doll line, but as of this video, none have been released, which is perhaps a sign that they've yet to figure out what they're trying to achieve with this generation of Strawberry Shortcake. As someone who grew up with the 2003 version of Strawberry Shortcake, that's what I picture when I think of the character, but it's still interesting to see all of the ways that she's changed over the years, even if some were more successful than others. It's a little sad to see how far she's fallen in the past decade, but I have faith that she can make a comeback. Which version of Strawberry Shortcake is your favorite? I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye!